Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Every skill you acquire doubles your odds of success, said Scott Adams. On behalf of IIA Delhi Chapter Women's Forum, I take the privilege to welcome IIA women leaders, distinguished panelists, and moderator, and the wonderful audience to this session today on key skills of internal auditors. Today, we are having a diverse audience from seniors to the college students. So I personally welcome you all for today's session. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today, and we are delighted to welcome you all with all the positive vibes of the new beginning. Today, we have the honor to have Mr. Sumant Chadha, Bharat Garg, Avinash Gupta, Priy, Ruchi Sadhana, Poonam Madaan, Mukesh Gupta, Sidheshwar Bhalla, and Yukti Arora with us for this session. To be the agent of change, internal auditors must embrace the change. If you want a transition into internal auditor career path, it is vital to understand the value of continually improving one's skills and knowledge of various audit tools and techniques. By developing your core competencies, you will be able to advance your career while serving your organization better. The route to growth is more important than the growth target itself. Today, we have Mr. Sumant Chadha, the managing partner of TR Chadha and Company, and a very vibrant and a passionate professional. He holds over 30 years of professional experience in matters relating to assurance, risk advisory, and internal audit, direct tax, including international taxation, transaction advisory services, and valuation business. He is also the gold medalist and secured second rank all over India in CA final examination. Mr. Chadha has been associated as a special invitee to various committees of ICI and also of PhD Chambers of Commerce, and has also been independent nominee director on various companies. Not to forget to mention that he was past president of IIA India as well. Now I request Sumant sir to deliver the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sana, so much. And a very good afternoon to my friends, my young friends. They are the future of our country, of the world. And I'm so happy to be connecting to them virtually, though I would have loved to have the opportunity of meeting each one of you in person, maybe uh, very soon. That old reality will become reality, and we'll move from a virtual world to an actual world. Today, of course, the meta word is kind of buzzing in everybody's dictionary, and a combination of a virtual reality and augmented reality, and how it blends with each other. I have no clue. And probably the honor of each one of you, the young vibrancy which you carry, and the ability to adapt and adopt to the changing world. It would make more sense to each one of you, but it's probably a little difficult for people who are growing and who have, feel that technology is not something which came with us when we were born, and we had to acquire and learn it slowly and the hard way. But it is exciting. When I started my career, I joined college, left after first year, and took my CA with a lot of passion. I studied very hard, did a lot of effort. But what I realized when I was auditing and doing my articles was the era was doing totaling, casting, and posting. The first few weeks we were looking into directories, telephone directories, which were 8 to 900 pages, volume 1, and then again volume 2, which came. And total the numbers. That was how our first week of articleship was spent. So we became adept in totaling. This is unheard of today. I mean, there is no directories, there's no concept of actually honing your skills in totaling. This is how we used to start our career as articles. We had no clue about internal auditing. Auditing was being a chartered accountant, and that was it. And he was supposed to do the tax, etc., etc. Everything was all in one. Absolutely simple way of living. The complexities in the last 3 decades and plus have given us a lot of opportunities for chartered accountants, for professionals, for certified internal auditors, and in actually every other career. But internal auditing, the topic of today, is something which I, over the years, developed as a passion, something I could relate to much more closely. Why? I was just thinking, why this happened, because the internal audit profession is quite different from the statutory audit profession, not only in the way it approaches, because for the assurance part that everything is going all right in terms of the numbers which are reported quarterly or annually, and an attestation function to outside stakeholders, external audit is what is we already know about. But internal audit actually supports the organization in many more ways, including focusing audit efforts on risks that actually matter, and also assisting the management and the board in discharging their responsibilities, and facilitating the identification of those risks, and also monitor how well these risks have been managed. We, as internal auditors, not only help in reviewing and viewing the design and operating effectiveness of the controls affecting all the aspects of the organization, but also provide insight into the efficiency of all the business processes, covering the entire gamut of the organization. Our field of play is much wider, and it gives us a lot of opportunity to grow personally as auditors and to provide phenomenal output to each one of the stakeholders where we interact with. And the good part is that today, if you are a graduate in any stream, you can pursue a career in internal auditing. It should not be something where I have a blinder that unless I'm a chartered accountant, I can't do internal auditing. That era has also gone past by. Engineers, IT specialists, you name it, and those are good and adept internal auditors. Not only that, in the career path, even before you graduate, you can actually start your progression as an internal auditor, provided you are able to understand the nuances, what skill sets the good internal auditor requires, how I am able to relate to those skill sets, and I feel passionate and excited about pursuing something which will not only be pure standards and pure requirements of law, but more of an art than a science. It's actually dealing with people, having a relationship with different stakeholders, and being able to provide some value add to the organization, something tangible, some benefits which I can leave on the table, which will actually help organizations to grow, to be better at what they are doing, and also build relationships along the path. If that is something I look at, whatever stream of education I carry, then internal auditing, my friends, is your career path. And like outstanding lawyers, teachers, artists, and doctors, outstanding internal auditors or a good internal auditors are made, they are never born. And mastering skills, as we all know, my friends, unfortunately, is a long, arduous process. There's no shortcut. And it is one that true professionals have to dedicate themselves to in every step in their careers. I personally believe no one stumbles into greatness. And also, as far as internal auditing is concerned, you do not know the nuances of controls, how risk controls and governance are functioning, but also how things are get done. What is my relationship acumen so that I can provide that kind of a support in what I am doing as my work as an internal auditor, so that other people are prone to listen to me. Am I conducting everything in a resilience and ethical manner? Am I working with integrity, courage, honesty, and accountability? Am I trustworthy? All these things make up a part of the journey to make me a good internal auditor. Today, the internal auditing profession has changed, and it is changing so rapidly, my friends, it's actually mind-boggling. Artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, data analytics, big data, everything is now a necessary part of internal auditing exercise. So if your technology is where you're looking at to grow, that is a good trait to have as internal auditors. Also, you must realize that in life we have various quotients. One is intellectual quotient, the IQ, which refers to our mental ability. Because this IQ enables people to learn and solve problems more quickly and has a positive impact on the real world outcome. Then we have also emotional quotient, which is so critical. Actually, the ability to perceive, control, and express emotions. Why would this help in dealing with complexity? Because people with higher emotional quotient are less susceptible to stress and anxiety. And they are more effective in their interpersonal skills. And so they are more successful in handling corporate politics and also tend to be entrepreneurial. But there is also very important aspect, which will really be important for good internal auditors. Do I have a high curiosity quotient, a hungry mind? Unless I have that hungry mind, I will and have that inquisitiveness and openness to new experiences and finding novelty exciting and generating original ideas, my path to be an internal auditor is difficult. Can I deal with complexities effectively and tend to be more tolerant of ambiguity and nuances? Am I likely to expand my knowledge of acquisitions over time? Because it is said that CQ, the curiosity quotient, is the ultimate tool to produce simple solutions for complex problems. So I have to think as a student today what career path I have to choose. If I'm already in the commerce line, I have limited choices in terms of where I have to see myself. Management, interplay of management, law, chartered accountancy, company secretary, cost accountancy, and internal auditors. Today you can do various courses. The main certifying course is the certified internal auditor, but that also requires certain mindsets which you have to create to be able to do that. But before that, today we have something very exciting for each one of you: the Internal Audit Practitioners Exam, the IAP, which can be actually taken up even before you are graduate, after you just pass out for school. That is just a basic 100 question 2 hours program, but actually it's amazing. It covers the entire, touches upon the entire ambit of internal auditing. And I seriously urge each one of you to look at the website, see the options. Maybe you want to try yourself to internal audit, to wet your little paws, as they call, to be able to see the test the water. If that is where you're looking at, try and look at this website and go and see if you can do this internal audit practitioner's exam, so that you really know if you belong to this world or not. So my suggestion and my request and my closing remarks to each one of you is, life is only starting for you. You are looking at, some of you will be looking at touching the next century. Wow, something which it is unimaginable. We have a mandate to be climate neutral until 2070. Most of you will be there and there. Look at the next 50 years of your life, how you will be able to tackle that. And if internal auditing, if some of these aspects of interpersonal skills and relationships is something you really feel excited about, just go for this. This is a journey you're never going to be forget, and you really enjoy each step of it. So my friends, excellent times for you guys. Notwithstanding the pandemic, it's only a small aberration in the journey which you're looking at. Good luck to you and all the best. Thank you, everyone, and back to Sana.
You're on mute, Sana.
Sorry. Thank you, Sumant sir, for sharing the evolution of the role of internal auditors from the past and today, and the future of the internal auditor and the journey thereof, and setting the context for today's session. Now, let me take the opportunity to introduce Mr. Bharat Garg, the Vice President of IIA Delhi chapter, and a very enthusiastic and dynamic leader. He is also the chairperson for the Publication Committee of IIA India. Bharat is a qualified chartered accountant and CIA with experience of over 19 years, currently working as the head of audit, Fidelity International, Fidelity International India. Previously, he worked with Deloitte, PwC, Vodafone, RBS, etc. He got diversified exposure in multiple industries like BFSI, telecom, manufacturing, and FMCG. He is also part of the study groups of ICI, which supports Internal Audit Standards Board in their objective to write new, revised, existing standards on internal audit. So far, he had delivered more than 200 sessions on various prestigious platforms. Now I request Bharat to deliver the special address of today's session. Over to you, Bharat.
Thanks, Anna, and good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is keeping safe and sound in this pandemic, or I should say the endemic world. And I would also like to congratulate Sana again, Yukti, and the entire IIA Delhi Chapter Women's Forum for organizing this wonderful session on a topical topic. And as we see, Sumant sir has already shared some wonderful insights and set the stage for today's session. And one key thing which has emanated and which we saw, the theme coming in from his insights is that it's a journey, and the change is the only constant that we have seen, be it internal audit and the associated skills. It has been changing, it has evolved a lot in last few decades, but the pace of change in last few years, it has been predominantly quite phenomenal. More because of some of the technology-led disruptions, the newest technologies which are coming up, be it artificial intelligence, machine learning, bots, metaverse, 3D, and so on and so forth. And also because of in last couple of years, as we would have seen, working from home due to COVID-19 related disruptions. Further, we have also seen that over a period of time, there has been a lot of focus on climate change and sustainability. This has become a standing agenda in the board discussions. And internal auditors, with their deep expertise about the business, and I'm sure a little bit of upskilling, they can play a vital role in helping businesses and the organization drive their sustainability agenda. Today, we have a galaxy of speakers amongst us, as Sana mentioned earlier, and who will be talking a lot about multiple internal audit skills which are required, be it understanding of the business, be it the IT skills, analytical, problem solving, communication skills, the negotiation skills while we deal with our stakeholders. But I would take some time off and talk about some of the softer aspects, the things which we see in our day-to-day life, and which we are important in our day-to-day life as well, and very, very important in internal audit. To begin with, the first would be empathy. As you know, over a period of time, it has become a business imperative, and all the organizations across all their business processes, more importantly in case of customer-facing processes, they are embedding empathy into their processes. It's not about, the process, it's more about, how you do it, how you interact. And same is important for internal audits as well. It's very imperative that the empathy is embedded into our day-to-day working. It's always helps, to have a discussion with your stakeholders, have a dialogue with your stakeholders. You may find certain business areas or business units which are more resistant to internal audit. So they may have their own prejudices. There may be certain pain points. It's good to understand what are the friction areas and how internal audit can tweak their process to work more collaboratively, more efficiently, and become a trusted advisor. Then In the same line, we have seen certain instances. I personally have seen certain instances in my career in last few years. If we go back 5-10 years back, the technology auditors were very limited. The technology audits which we used to do, so it would be the basic application control audits and basic ITGC, the change management, identity access management, infosec, those kind of stuff. But in last 2-3 years, as we started getting deeper and deeper into technology, in my organization, in my experience, we came across certain business leaders who are in their mid mid career journeys, but they have never come across any audits. So they have never been audited either because they were running some of the complex tech solutions or for whatever reasons. So in that case, what we saw that there was a natural resistance. They have never been audited. They were doing the job on their own, but now each and everything may be questioned. So that might be some of their preconceived notions. At times, it helps that we make them aware of the internal audit process, the kind of value which internal audit brings on the table, and how internal audit is there to support them, identify if there are gaps which they can remediate for the overall improvement and achievement of organization objectives. Then another thing is good listening skills. Again, a very basic thing which we all experience in our day-to-day life. It's always important that we remain patient and listen to business point of view. Imagine a scenario that an SME who takes pride in doing his job, be it from any function, be it HR, finance, supply chain management, or any other function, who takes pride in doing his job for years, at times maybe decades, and suddenly an internal auditor walks in. He may be a seasoned auditor, and at times he may be an articled student, or he may be a junior auditor, and he starts questioning his ways of working, the kind of decision making, his approach, and everything. So that will always puts him off because he has been doing that job. He knows his job pretty well. He has been running the shop for years and for decades, and suddenly here is somebody who is questioning. He may or may not have the requisite experience. It's very important that we listen to their side of the story quite patiently. We digest it appropriately, review it holistically, and before we jump onto any audit conclusions. So the whole idea is that don't be show any impulsive behavior or start calling out if there are any audit conclusions or any design gaps, but listen to them carefully, take us relax, and then only reduce the audit conclusions. The third is I would say preconceived notions. So whenever you approach any internal audit or initiate any new audit engagement, or you walk into a internal audit meeting, you may have done the extensive planning, you may have thought about each and every area, but trust me, my friends, it's very difficult that we sitting in our laptops in our rooms, we may be envisage each and every practical scenario. The actual business world will be quite different. Some of the apparently design gaps or certain errors which you may come across during the course of your audit, they may be inadvertent, they may be sound logical when you get to hear the business side of the story. So try to understand as to what may go wrong. They may be the best choice in front of business as and when the decision would have been made, and considering the scenarios at that point in time. And another thing which I noticed has worked for me is flexibility. So internal auditors need to build in flexibility in their approach. We may have a planning, we may have a timelines. There may be proactive notifications which would have gone to the stakeholders or to the business, but still we need to build in flexibility. The businesses, the processes, they have a shop to run, they have their day-to-day responsibilities, and more important in case it's a customer-facing business. Think of a scenario that you are auditing a particular business unit and there is a technology incident or some other high priority incident which happens. Definitely the customer takes a priority over the audit. You may take a step back and hold on for some time. COVID-19 is a very classic example. So at least in our organization, when COVID-19 struck and the lockdown was immediately implemented, we stopped all our audits for at least a couple of months. And we were there to support business in whatever way, in deploying emergency response management, helping them with their BCP measures and all of it. Then at times, again, in these kind of scenarios, it may help that since people are working from home, they may have their own personal challenges, people may be ill. So you need to buffer in more time, to deal with the stakeholders while they will collate and provide more information and explanation to you. So that need to be planned appropriately. And another thing I would say in terms of flexibility is that be mindful to the time zones. So more particularly in case your processes and businesses are spread across multiple locations. So last year, I had a scenario wherein there was a process on us, there was a process audit, and it had locations across Hong Kong, Dubai, UK, and Bermuda. And towards the end of the audit, getting all of those people onto one call at a convenient time slot was too difficult. It took me just around 3 weeks to get onto two calls. Of course, there was a buffer which was built in into the planning, but still, we need to be flexible in our approach. So these are some of the day-to-day things or examples which I wanted to share, and which would help all the internal auditors and the students who intend to adopt internal audit as their career aspiration in their long journey. So I wish you good luck, and hand over to Sana. Thank you.
Thank you, Bharat. Thank you, Bharat, for enlightening us on the role of auditors and sharing the top key skills which is required for them. Now, let me take the opportunity to introduce CA Avinash Gupta, Chairman of NIRC of ICAI. Avinash has done his graduation from Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University, and awarded the best student of the college. He is also in the merit list of ICAI in CA final. He is also a law graduate and completed his LLM in international taxation from Vienna University, Austria. He has authored 3 books on international taxation and transfer pricing. Presently, he is the chairman of North Indian Regional Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for the year 2021-22. He is also secretary of SRCC Alumni Association. He is also president of Tax Research Foundation. It's an NGO doing research in the field of taxation. He is the national treasurer of International Fiscal Association, India branch, a Netherlands-based body. He is the partner in APT and Company LLP, Chartered Accountants, having head office at Delhi and 18 branches all over India. He has delivered more than 2,000 lectures at national and international level. He is the visiting faculty member at National Academy of Direct Taxes, Nagpur, DTRTIs, SRCC, ICAI, ICSI, ICWI, and Management Institutes. He is also a faculty member of certification course on international taxation for chartered accountants. He was a special invitee to the Direct Tax Committee of ICAI, International Taxation Committee of ICAI. He has experience of handling various international taxation, including transfer pricing matters of big corporates. We welcome you, Avinash. Over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you, Sana. It is my privilege that I am speaking in front of my principal, under whom I have learnt auditing. Mr. Sumant Chatterjee is here. So second time I am been called in IIA. So when Sidheshwar ji called me, I said I am a tax person. How can I help and deliver a theme address of a topic which is of internal audit? But he said nowadays, because I have to represent before many audit committees and I'm in touch with many professionals who are on the board of many listed companies. So he said, just share your experience about the internal auditing skills, what an internal auditor used to have. And believe me, friends, today the scenario have drastically changed. Specifically, when I joined and took this position of as a chairman of the NIRC. So first time in my life I have been on the other side of the table when my accounts are being audited by somebody else. So as a chairman, I have to see that what are the kind of requirements that I as a management or as a chairman require from the auditor, whether it is an internal auditor or a statutory auditor. So based on my experiences and role, I believe that select
We are losing you, Avinash
the
ji.
changing skills.
Avinash, we can't hear you too well.
The topics by what are the required skills? That's what I want to say. Sumant sir have extensively covered all the things, but still I believe things what is after my address.
Avinash,
Can you
we're
hear me
having
now?
trouble with your audio. If you can switch off your video for some time, maybe we'll be able to get it. I think we lost him.
Yeah. Now I think now it is audible. Am I audible, sir?
It's better now. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Avinash.
Avinash.
Sidheshwar ji, Sumant sir, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Avinash. Please go ahead.
Okay. So, what I am talking about is what are the key skills, what is being required as of now. What I believe is one is the value creation. So I believe in today's scenarios, whoever is the internal auditor, he should be there to create some value for the management. It gone are the days when internal auditors are there only for checking the existing stuffs, etc. Now every management, every independent auditors, every independent directors or the audit committees are looking internal auditor as a value creator. So this is the first skill, according to me, should be there in an internal auditor, that he, whatever he is doing, he should create value for the management. Second, out of the box thinking. So every internal auditor should think out of the box towards the management and say that, okay, whenever he is reviewing any process, whenever he is reviewing any function of the company or any other person, then he should think out of the box to have some kind of a saving, whether it is in terms of monetary saving or in terms of savings of the actions, etc. So that is second skill, what according to me should be there in an internal auditor, that he should not be too rigid. He should have an out of box thinking. The third, which is another very important part, is the good communicator. He should know that how to communicate the thing in a way what management or the person who is heading that function is requiring or looking at. So he should be a very good communicator. That is third thing what I feel that he should be there, or the skill should be there in the internal auditor. The last what I feel is the good IT skills. So IT is the requirement, and it is more of a system audit these days. You should not believe that whatever is coming from the system is correct. I have seen many reports coming from very good softwares which have some problems in terms of designing or in terms of something. So IT skills should be very good of in the today's scenario. The last part, what I feel in many meetings, what have come up is the industry benchmarking. So the internal auditor should be able to be good enough out of his own experience or out of the experience of his seniors, that he should be able to benchmark the gaps what is there in the industry. So for example, in any company, if he is coming out with an observation, then he should also give the solution based on the what is the best practices of the industry. So these are the few things I believe that an internal auditor should have to give and do effectively. These are all apart from what my earlier speakers Bharatji and Sumant sir have said. So according to me, these are my small comments or themes about this topic, and I wish that this webinar will be very helpful to all of you. I am also learning out of this webinar and improving my skills. So thank you very much for inviting me today and sharing my few thoughts on this topic. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Avinash ji, for sharing for setting the context and focusing on the theme of today's topic. To rephrase what you have just mentioned, as you focus more on the soft skills part of the internal auditor. By mentioning the internal auditor should have the 5 skill set. One is the value creation, out of the box thinking, good communication, good IT skills, and the industry benchmarking. That is what is required from the internal auditors. Now, let me introduce today's glorious, magnificent, and the diverse panel for discussing these key skills a little more. On the panel, we have with us Priy. Anu is basically the partner ethics and compliance, Genpact Enterprises, Genpact Enterprise Risk Consulting. With over 15 years of experience across manufacturing, life sciences, pharma, consumer goods, retail, insurance, Anu currently leads the ethics and compliance division at Genpact. She has designed and implemented Genpact's digital compliance tool for regulatory fraud and policy monitoring for global clients. Through her successful professional journey, Anu has supported multiple global organizations with a presence across the globe, Asia, Europe, US, and hence brings a nuanced understanding of the global consumers, teams, and a stakeholder. Anu also speaks and moderates panel on sustainability and digital transformation and compliance ethics and compliance and forums in Europe and India, like the Compliance Week Europe, IIA National Conference. She also leads the CSR lead for the risk and compliance practice. We welcome you, Anu, on today's panel. Next, we have with us Ruchi Sadhana. She is the head of corporate audit and assurance services at HCL Technologies. Ruchi is SRCC alumni and did her CA in May 1997 in first attempt with a rank in All India, and she was included in the merit list in CA finals. She is also a certified internal auditor. She did this recently in this pandemic. She is a cost accountant and a certified SOX auditor from US. She has 24 years of experience. She heads the corporate audit and assurance services department of HCL and leading USD 10 billion global IT company with a presence in approximately 45 countries. She is also CA Institute, a study group member, which is responsible for drafting and reviewing the auditing standards. We welcome you, Ruchi, on today's panel. Next, we have very dynamic professional, CA Poonam Madaan. She is also the corporate trainer and the coach of BSSF Training Solutions. Poonam is a corporate trainer and a life coach. She founded Break Free from Stress Training Solution with a mission to spread a smiles. Through her workshops, seminars, and talks, she has empowered more than 5,000 people and enabled positive transformation in them by elevating their happiness quotient. She is a chartered accountant, NLP practitioner, CBT practitioner, and a laughter yoga teacher. She is also an ex-council member of WICCI, that's Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Life Skills Council of Karnataka. She has almost 2 decades of diverse experience in corporate education and training environment. She firmly believes that humans are ruled by thoughts and thoughts can be changed. We welcome you, Poonam, to hear from you on the soft skills part of the internal auditors. Next on the panel, we have Mukesh Gupta. He is the Board of Governor of IIA Delhi chapter. Mukesh is a CA, CISA, CFE, and CIA. He is currently working as Director in Risk Advisory Function of Deloitte. He has over 2 decades of experience in the field of risk advisory and audit. Previously, he worked with ICICI Bank, Genpact, Trinity Capital, etc. He is also the board member of IIA Delhi chapter. He has facilitated sessions and published various articles on risk governance and compliance in ICI, IIA, IOD, CSNR, and other professional forums. Welcome, Mukesh, on the panel today. This session will be moderated by Sidheshwar Bhalla. He is presently the partner and leader in Madaan India LLP. Sidheshwar Bhalla, or Sid, as he is popularly known as, he brings over 19 years of professional experience as a chartered accountant and a company secretary. Sid is a partner and leader, risk governance, resilience, compliance and sustainability with Mazars in India. He was earlier associated with KPMG, GE, EY, Deloitte, BDO. Sid believes in giving back to society and wears the hat of Vice President of the Institute of Internal Auditors India and the past President of IIA Delhi chapter. Sid believes in keeping balance of profession and passion. To nurture his passions, Sid qualified of Jyotish Acharya from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan and enjoys pastime in reading horoscopes. Welcome, Sid, for today's session. Now we are looking forward to have a very interesting and exciting session today. Over to you, Sid, for moderating the panel.
Thanks, Sana, and once again, a very warm welcome to all our participants. You all will agree, India is one of the world's fastest growing major economy. Post 1991, growth got impetus on account of globalization. And fast forward, today it's more with innovative business and revenue models, disrupting the marketplace, thereby expanding businesses and increasing consumption. Startups is one of the game changer, pivoting this disruption. Well, growth brings its own challenges, and with so much happening around, internal auditors, I personally call them as corporate doctors, as they support governance initiatives in an organization, have kept pace and have not been an exception. There are reasons for not being an exception. Similar to the saying, all roads lead to Rome. We can say, given our experience, all eyes are on internal auditors in the corporate world. Well, why? To gain comfort on controls around business operations, seek advice on strengthening the control environment, get assurance on systems and processes. So today, let's hear the words of wisdom on various facets of internal audit from our distinguished panelists, from stakeholder expectations to extent of assurance that can be provided by internal auditors, from dexterous to the digital and remote way of auditing, from competencies acquired to the skills required for effective auditing. So without any further delay, my first question is to you, Mukesh. In today's time, expectation from internal auditors to give comfort to stakeholders around cyber controls, anti-fraud controls, latest buzz, which is ESG, environmental, social, and governance requirements, automation opportunities, adherence to various statutory compliances, and all of this is to be looked around various business cycles that we cover. Can you share your perspective with our audience on scope of internal audit vis-a-vis expectations of regulators, board, management, and audit committees, specifically the independent directors? Mukesh, to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, and thank you IIA for inviting me as one of the panelists. And good evening to all the colleagues. I'm calling them colleague because I expect some of them to be in the internal audit profession, and this is a wonderful profession to be in, because this is the only profession perhaps which will give you a 360-degree view of the entire organization landscape, irrespective of the function, irrespective of the level of confidentiality, irrespective of whether it belongs to board, the matter belongs to board or to various functions or to any kind of any corner of the organization, including the vision and the strategy of the organization. Now, Sid, thanks for asking this question. So this question has two parts. One is how do we do scoping of an engagement from an internal audit standpoint? And second is what is the expectations of, let's say, regulator to audit committee to board and the management? And hence, I will take it into two parts. First, let's just talk about scoping of internal audit. If you look at the requirement of internal audit, it is originating from Companies Act 2013, which has mandated certain class of companies to have an internal auditor. However, law has not prescribed any scope and frequency of internal audit. It is left to the wisdom of management and respective board and the audit committee, whatever, whether they may have audit committee, they may not have audit committee, then ultimately it really boils down to the board of directors. And the trend which I have seen in various organizations auditing, not just in India, but abroad, scoping is very, very fluid. And some of the organizations decide to be very light on scoping and would cover a standard areas, for example, purchase, sales, production, logistics, etc., but not look at this from a structural lens of risk assessment. And hence, it's an approach of how do I force fit certain areas based on convenience or based on the budget which the company would have decided to be spent on internal audit. But for internal audit to really add value, there needs to be a structured risk assessment across the entire organization landscape of the various areas. And this has to go down from, let's say, understanding strategy, understanding regulatory environment, understanding how organization is working in different geographies, and also the length and breadth of the various solution or a product company is offering. Today, business houses are very, very diverse, and therefore each business will have its own set of challenges and priorities ahead. For example, a large manufacturing organization is now having an investment in a startup, for example, or they are getting into digital, they are into, let us say, a cloud sourcing kind of environment, or maybe cloud computing or whatever else. There are so many other things which is coming in. Every new business is bringing its own set of challenges. So therefore, it's important that we understand the business, understand various businesses within sub-businesses within the entity, have a lens of criticality applied, and then break down those areas from the audit universe. Audit universe is the compilation of what all is relevant for the organization, and then apply what would be categorized as high, what would be categorized as medium, and what would be categorized as low risk based on various factors, including previous history of issues in terms of maturity of the business, and also in terms of what is the perception and expectations is of regulator, audit committee, and management, and also investor, by the way. Once we apply all of it, we would have a very structured process of what is the landscape, what should we audit, and what should be the frequency. It's an old saying, if I apply the same level of rigor to all the aspects in my life, I would either be overspending on certain matter or I would be underspending on certain matter. For example, if somebody is having a, let's say, a heart problem that appears to be perhaps very, very critical, and hence he should go to best of the best. But if it is a very mild kind of problem, he may decide to just kind of go to nearby doctor and get it consulted. So it's about applying the right level of resources basis materiality or criticality. Same applies to organization, and hence some of the areas which I have seen never been part of internal audit is, for example, what is the framework organization has with respect to, let's say, prevention of insider trading, which is a very, very important regulation for issued by SEBI with respect to listed company. That's point one. Then how transaction with related parties are executed and reported, because related party transaction has a risk of corporate governance and is being viewed by regulator very, very seriously. Third area which I would say is important and not necessarily be included in the audit scope is the whole cyber data security, data privacy aspect. And in the last 2 years of COVID, there have been significant issues most organizations have faced with respect to cyber threat, with respect to data privacy and others. And also an areas which is very, very important from a regulator standpoint is the organization compliant to the loan covenants? Because with the RBI coming up with very stringent norms of monitoring for the bank, do we have a structure in the organization of how do we comply with those loan covenants? If there are any non-compliances, it would not only means penalties and fine, it could also mean loan recall. So these are some of the items which I have hardly seen being included as part of internal audit, and hence whatever comfort an auditor might be providing to, let us say, an audit committee, it may not be comprehensive. So that's point one response said to your question. Now I will reach to the point two, which is about expectation of different set of stakeholder. And the first and the most important stakeholder is the regulator. Now, regulator has a very high reliance on internal auditor because he's the one who is providing comfort to the public at large in terms of how the organization is operating from an internal control standpoint, and is there anything which we should go back and report. Therefore, while we meet this expectation, it's important that auditor will apply the highest professional standards with respect to how do we report issues, what is the depth of the issues through which it is being reported, and are we reporting the issues in context. For example, an issue which happens to be, let us say, very critical, if an auditor has not rated with right set of criticality, tomorrow regulator can blame an auditor of suppressing certain issues which could have implication with respect to, let us say, it could be a personal liability on the auditor, it could be a disrepute to the organization which an auditor represents, and many other. And hence independence, highest integrity, and reporting issues in context are very, very important, and highest level of importance is being given by all regulator, be it SEBI to RBI to IRDI to whatever else. That's on the expectation of the regulator. The second important stakeholder is the audit committee. Audit committee, in their discharge of responsibility towards internal audit and oversight function, they are relying very heavily on what are the type of issues auditor is highlighting, and is there a resolution around those issues. And hence it's important for internal auditor to promptly highlight issues which are in the range of, let us say, ethical violation, bribery and corruption, management override, segregation of duty conflict, any kind of red flag which is being identified, and also be very careful in terms of reporting implementation of the issues which are being previously identified, because auditor is meant to improve, and improvement cannot happen unless there are implementation of already identified issues. So issues needs to be reported in context, number one, and number two, there should be a regular update to audit committee on how are we, what is the level of implementation. And in case auditor feel that management is not paying attention to implementation, it is the duty of internal auditor to report back to audit committee, and therefore audit committee needs to obviously have a conversation with the management on how do we deal with it. And that's what audit committee is very, very interested on. Then the third important stakeholder is about management and the board. Avinash was making a point that we got to add value. Each and every management or the board would expect that. So auditor will have two type of expectation. Expectation number one, we got to evaluate that organization is having right set of compliance with respect to policy, procedures, and regulatory compliance, and this that. Second is, can I put dollar on the table? I can put dollar on the table by way of identifying certain income leakage, identifying certain non-value add processes, identifying certain cost improvement initiative or an automation initiative. All of this will have a dollar value. And if we can do a perfect balance of being somebody who is looking at not just the compliance, but also suggesting that this is the way organization can improve its processes by way of automation, it will not only improve internal control environment, but at the same time will save cost, because any manual control will have much higher cost as compared to something which is automated. So, I mean, if I were to really put this into a frame, I would say from a scoping perspective, there is a need for auditor to also contribute by saying that these are the areas which might be considered in scope. And this is a discussion. Ultimately, the final call to be taken is by the audit committee. With respect to expectation, auditor got to be absolutely clear of that he got to be independent all the time. In case there are any independence issues, that got to be brought straight to audit committee without any hesitation. Because unless auditor has reported independence issues, he is getting into a trouble, because independence issues will have and probably impair his ability to report freely, which is one of the expectation from a regulatory standpoint. And for understanding value, which is the last point I'm making, auditor should really understand business strategy, understand the vision of the organization, understand how business is evolving, what type of technology we are using. Avinash was making a point on understanding technology. I'm a CISA myself. Auditor got to have a digital auditing mindset for him to understand the digital landscape and then use that technology both for understanding as well as applying that technological mindset even in the auditing process itself. If we can do that, there are a lot of values, not just for management, but for the auditor in terms of easing his own work, reducing effort, and improving and providing better assurance. So with that, I will take a pause, Sid, and hand it over back to you.
Thank you so much, Mukesh. I think a very grounded answer that you have given with a lot of depth in terms of what coverage should be there. And I'm sure, I'm just apprehending you won't have frightened many who would be listening to you. But believe me, if somebody listens to, and I know this is getting recorded, if somebody listens to this again, there are a lot of things that you have touched, a lot of insights that you have shared. Thank you so much for that. But in a while, I'll come back to you. And I know you have been on the other side of the table, so I'll request you to wear the other cap. Yeah, and we'll hear it out. What do you want to add at that time? But for the time being, thanks for this. And now that we have heard about the coverage, obviously we need skills. Either we have acquired it or we require certain skills. So Ruchi, the question is to you. What are your views on the key competency and skill required by internal auditors? You have had a vast experience. I'm sure you've seen, Mr. Chadha also mentioned, that there was a time when people used to do the totaling and all that. And today we are actually talking about digitizing the internal audit processes also, so that we can focus on some of the areas which includes ESG, labor codes, anything that is coming up new, I would say, in the arena through the regulators or through the stakeholders. So Ruchi, your view in terms of the key skills that are either acquired or required for effective internal audit.
Sure, thanks, Sid. And I would like to thank IIA for giving me this opportunity to be part of this webinar. Good evening, everyone on the dais as well as off the dais. As far as auditor skills is concerned, you know, we keep on hiring internal auditors, and I have been in this profession for 24 years. So the skill set has definitely changed what used to be the role of the internal auditor earlier now as compared to what it is right now. So when we go for hiring freshers, which is more relevant for the lot of people here who are in audience, we generally look forward to the communication skills as well as the confidence of the person. So that is, these two things are very, very important. Along with that, you know, we just try to gauge if there is, you know, how good is the clarity of the thoughts, and, you know, how good they are able to comprehend the situation or the process, because, you know, internal auditor is not a master of the process. I mean, they understand the process from the process owners, and then they find out the issues and tell them that, you know, this is not happening right in your area. So it is very important that they should be able to understand the process clearly. They should be able to comprehend whatever is happening around them and whatever is being explained to them. They should be able to connect the dots. Is very, very important for you know, even if you are a fresher, you should have this kind of mindset. So these are the basic skills which we look forward to the people, along with the basic IT knowledge that they should be able to have, you know, good Excel and good presentation skills, creating PPT, because all our deliverables are in generally, in the PowerPoint presentations. So it is very, very important that, they should be knowing how to use Excel and some basic commands like VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, all these kind of things, pivot and all. These are very, very important. We don't expect them to be very good at ACL and all the kind of tools which are there for the audit, but freshers, we generally expect these kind of skills. As far as additional skills which are very, very important for auditors, whether they are freshers or they are the head of the department or in the middle management or the lead auditors, is the professional ethics. Internal auditor is supposed to be, the people look at them because they are the one who are finding issues in whatever others are doing, and they are suggesting the process improvement. So they are supposed to be the whitest of white. So they are supposed to have the right kind of integrity, the good integrity. I mean, there's no good or bad, that they have to be very, very strong on the integrity. Plus, the confidentiality they need to maintain, and they have to be competent, and they need to be very, very objective. It is not that, they are supposed to have anything, no bias is supposed to be there, because they are the one who are supposed to be absolutely objective whenever they are taking care of anything. So one is that this is very, very important, whether you are a fresher or you are at a senior level. So integrity is very important, and all this objectivity and the confidentiality, they are not supposed, because they have the access to lot many data and information in the organization. They have the right to have all this data. So the confidentiality is very, very important, which they need to maintain when they do the audit or when they are the auditors. Other than that, when they grow a little bit, generally we provide them the mentors when they come as a fresher. So we provide them the mentors to understand the organization and the processes and to know the people. But when they grow a little bit, and when we are looking for the lateral hires for our organization or anywhere in all these areas, so at the lateral that level, we are expecting auditor, to have there's a global competency framework which IIA has created, because audit is not bound by any kind of boundaries. So if we can have Sana, can you present that slide if it is visible to all? This is a global. Yeah, this is a global competency framework because like IT and all, it is not, we don't have any kind of boundaries of the country as far as internal audit is concerned. Statutory auditor may be, from different countries to countries, the law changes. But as far as the internal auditors are concerned, they are more doing in the process audits and all, unless they're into the compliance. So this is professional ethic is a base. Internal audit management, how they are supposed to manage the show at their end, scoping, how they are supposed to maintain the papers and all work papers, that all skills they should have. This is when you are there at least 1 year, 1.5 years, but these all things are learned. Then there are technical expertise. ITPF is International Professional Practices Framework, which actually governs and gives the guidelines and the principles for the internal audits. So they should know about that, because that actually advises how we should do the audits. Then definitely governance, risk and control, they should be good at. We should understand what is the governance mechanism, what should be how we are identifying the risk, and what should be the controls. And very, very important as far as the technical expertise is the business acumen. Wherever you are doing the audit, you need to be very clear, what kind of business environment there is, and you should be very good in that particular industry. You should know the basic nuances of that particular industry. So that's the business acumen. If you're working in a manufacturing organization, you should know what is input-output ratio and all. When you're working with the IT companies, you should know the various revenue models which are not generally applicable in the manufacturing kind of setup. So all those things, if you're working in the telecom, then there is another set of knowledge which you need to have. So this is very, very important, which you have to develop when you are supposed to do the audit in that particular area. Other than that, there are personal skills which are very, very important, which have been given by this framework. Also is communication, which I just talked. Is not only verbal, written. It is how your interpersonal skills are also. How you are passing the message also is very important. What the message is also important, but how you are delivering your message is also very, very important as far as the auditor is concerned. Then you are supposed to be having a very strong persuasion and collaboration skills, because in the audit, either you get convinced or you convince the other person. There is no midway around that. So either you have to convince the auditee or the process owner, or you have to get convinced by them. There cannot be anything which is a midway here. So it is very, very important to have the persuasive skills. How you are able to persuade the other person is something this is something which people generally is a part of their personality, is supposed to have, but you can always develop it over a period. And then collaboration is very important, because audit is an area audit is a field where you are not doing anything alone. You have to collaborate all the time with the process owners for whom you are doing the audit. So this is again which is very, very important. And the third thing which is given by the framework is the critical thinking. You have to be very, very constructive in whatever way you are thinking, and because it's not that I've given some kind of observation and that has been accepted. You have to first go critically. You need to think whether it is right or it is worth taking to the process owner. Otherwise, the image gets spoiled, and you may not be able to. Your good points also may not carry weight if you give one, fluid kind of observation. So this is very, very important that critically we think, we analyze whether it is worth presenting, and while giving the solutions also, we are supposed to do that critical thinking, because you have to think 2-3 steps ahead. Your this particular action or recommendation will have what kind of impact. So that is also there. And finally, on the top, there is an internal audit delivery, which is very, very important. How we are actually delivering our internal audit output. And after that, continuous improvement, and then innovations, which is very important. That we can't afford to keep on doing the same thing again and again. We keep on doing the audit again and again. 1 year we are doing the audit, after 2 years again we may be doing the similar audit. But not necessarily the same kind of activity can be repeated. You may have to come out with an innovative way to find out that if something has been done, it's not that the process has become perfect. There may be something else, but you have to change the ways you are doing the audit. So I think that's a good framework which IIA has given, which every auditor should follow if they want to be in this field. This is a framework. It's a guidance note. So it is very, very important, and we all practically actually use it, and we see this is being very important for auditors to have if they want to excel in this particular field.
Thank you so much, Ruchi. I was just trying to coin a sentence while you were talking about all this, and what clicked my mind as you were mentioning all this was intelligent to understand and smart to implement. I think that can be a mool mantra which is there. But you also talk about ethics, which is very important. I think that is because all the stakeholders, internal and external, they look up to auditors. So I think that becomes a very important and critical component. And I think who other than Anu? So Anu, I have a question for you, which goes next, but maybe you can touch on that also, as you are the ethics leader. What are the key emerging skills required by internal auditors? So we've spoken about certain skills, but some of the emerging skills based on your global experience that you have. Anu, I hope I was audible to you.
No. Yeah, I think I got most
Yeah.
of it. There was a slight lag, but I think I understood. So again, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. And once again, thanks a lot, IIA, for inviting me to this panel. Just to take off from, the question said, in fact, the last couple of years, I'll address it in a couple of parts. The last couple of years, which have been referred to as the new normal, they've actually led to new ways of working across the different professions, be it the medical industry, the educational industry, or even the internal audit field. And I'd like to just quickly talk about 3 main developments in this period, which led to a lot of new risks coming up, as well as newer skills to deal with these risks. First and foremost was, like everybody's talking about,
Anu, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I think there's a challenge here. Anu, we can't hear. Sorry, Anu, I think you got on mute. Sana Yukti from the backend, can you just see if she's on mute and you can unmute her?
She's not on mute, but we can't listen to her. I think she's not getting our voice as well.
Yeah. Technology has its own challenges. I know we are talking about technology also here from an audit perspective, but yeah.
That you can always circle back to Anu. You can, take on.
I can go on the next one, but I think she got dropped, I believe. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think Anu is not there. I can go ahead and I can go to the next one. Poonam, I think the next one was for you. And what other can be an appropriate time, but to have something on effective communication from you, yeah? So what are the key soft skills for effective internal audit, and how can one enhance these skills, specifically when in a hybrid and virtual model? And we just saw this virtual model, and what are your thoughts? And you've been a chartered accountant, you've been in the training. If I can just request you to enlighten our audience in terms of the soft skills that are required for effective communication.
Thanks. First of all, I would like to thanks all of you for giving me this opportunity to share my views on this elite platform. Though I didn't want it to be the last to speak on the topic, but unfortunately Anu has dropped, so I will be the second last now.
We'll come back to Anu, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So speaking on soft skills for effective internal audit, so when I was asked to speak on this topic, I did some research on internet, and I got to this report, which was shared by KPMG. They conducted a survey on 200 respondents, including audit committee chairs, CFOs, and controllers. And they collectively selected one of the skill as the top skills that they seek in an auditor. And as all of you have guessed it right, the top skill that most of them prefer in an auditor is the communication skill. So yes, it has been already touched in this session previously as well. So a successful auditor has to be good in communication. And when we say he has to be good in communication, it means that he should be good in conveying his thoughts clearly, his ideas and suggestions during the meetings, presentations, interviews, and negotiations with audit clients and executives. Right? And when I say communication, communication includes both verbal and non-verbal communication. And communication includes two parties, sender and receiver. So in any case, when we are saying it has to be effective communication, it has to be ensured that the message that was coded by the sender is correctly decoded by the receiver. If it has not happened, it means there is some communication gap on which a person has to work on. So I have worked in various profiles. I started my career as a CA. I have seen many professionals in corporates, and every time I used to observe people around, one thing was in common, that people are hired for their technical skills and fired for their non-technical skills. When I say non-technical skills, it means the soft skills part. And yes, soft skills play a major role in all the professions. So yes, we have to imbibe these soft skills as a part of all the curriculums. We have to tell people how to communicate properly, especially the auditors has to learn this aspect. We should know as an auditor how to be a good listener. And when we say we have to be a good listener, it means that we not only have to speak, but we also have to actively pay attention to what is being said. And then we have to reflect upon what was being said. We have to build rapport with our clients, with the stakeholders. And when we say building rapport, it means that we have to create the feeling of commonality. You all would agree that people like people who are like them, or who are like how they would like to be, right? So if I want to build rapport with someone, be it my stakeholders, be it my clients, be it my team as well, I have to learn the art of how to be common, how to develop that habit of speaking what they want to listen to. So there is one very which we teach to people in NLP. I am an NLP practitioner as well. NLP means neuro linguistic programming. So matching and mirroring is very effective. So we have to learn this technique where, say for example, I'm talking to you and you are sharing some of your good experiences with me, right? Then I am expecting a smile on your face. So if other person is smiling and sharing their experiences with me, I must mirror them, and there should be a smile on my face as well, isn't it? So that helps to build the rapport. So for this purpose, I have to understand how the other persons behave. In NLP, we even focus on the IQs as well. How a person is moving their eyes, and accordingly we can decipher the message from their body language. It has been said that it's 7% only the words which constitute our communication. Rest all is the body language or the tone of voice that matters. So if I can understand why a person is looking in that direction and thinking. So for example, if I ask you all, can you think about a dream job? Can you think about face of your mother? Now, when you start observing people, you will find a common IQ in all of them. Whenever we are recalling something or remembering something, mostly we look in the left upwards to recall some visual memory. Now, if I understand, and this thing may definitely help in fraud investigation forensic as well, when I understand, when I am questioning some person on a particular aspect in business, and I know that if a person is looking in that direction and answering, it means the person is constructing the replies, right? So this technique can definitely help me out to understand how a person is responding. And we all speak without speaking as well. So even when I am asking a question to some person and they are not replying, but simply smiling, I can definitely decipher some meaning from the smile itself. Or if a person is looking in that direction and thinking the answer, it means he is constructing the answer. If he is looking in this direction and thinking the answer, it means he is recalling the answer. So there is a bit of science in this as well. So it's not only about observing people, it's also about learning the science, why people behave the way they behave, even learning why I behave the way I behave. And this is a very important part of our behavior, which is now being considered as very important. And we all know it by the name of emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, apart from IQ, is becoming a very interesting topic for soft skills. In many of the corporates, I myself have conducted many sessions for emotional intelligence with the corporates, and people find it really intriguing and they want to know more. So I would suggest to include emotional intelligence also as an important skill for internal auditors, because it goes beyond something that is in books. You all would agree that it's not what we say. Sorry.
No. So we'll come back to you on that. Emotional intelligence in this session only, very much there in my radar. I'll come back to you on that. But I think the art of understanding by looking at someone, whether the person is looking at left or right, I think that's a very good tip. And I'm not sure whether all internal auditors should also pursue the course of NLP. Yeah. So apart from other EA, CIA, CISA, CFE, I think somewhere we also need to look at the N which is there, which is NLP. So I'll come back to you, Poonam, but I think we are also running against time. And Anu, I think we lost you in between. And I will request you if you can complete, because we couldn't hear you. Sorry, we couldn't hear you at that time. If you can just complete on the key emerging skills you were talking about.
Sure. So the first skill that I was talking about.
No, Poonam, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you on the emotional intelligence part. Anu, are you there? If you are there, you can complete.
I'm there. I just wanted to ensure that for bandwidth reasons, I remove, I go off while I'm talking, if that's okay.
Perfect. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So yeah, no, thanks a lot, Sid. And just to come back, apologies for that glitch. I think I was just referring to the fact that there were a few developments over the last few years, which actually led to a lot of new risks, as well as the new risk and new skills which internal auditors like us had to develop. First and foremost of those new developments was the pandemic, with the corresponding waves, which actually led to a lot of new risks that organizations had to suddenly deal with. I'll quickly talk about that in a while. There was also the faster adoption of digital technologies and digital transformation in organizations, which led to, again, newer ways of working. And thirdly, investors in society started expecting audits to provide assurance on ESG risks, which again resulted in more and more organizations, including ESG compliance in their corporate strategies. And the new risks which actually emerged because of these developments, again, I'll just quickly highlight a few of them. First and foremost was the employee fraud risk. Because now with work from home, employees started perceiving that they were not under the scrutiny of companies and started to commit frauds, and employee embezzlement came on the rise. A supply chain risk was the other big one, because with disruptions due to the lockdown, companies were actually forced to change suppliers or move suppliers to alternate locations. And this brought about a lot of compliance risks, because a lot of times companies, because of time constraints, did not perform the right screening and vetting of third parties, which either resulted in a lot of quality compromise because the new third party did not have the right quality skill sets, or actually went ahead and chose suppliers not because of their capability, but because of their links to government officials to actually expedite shipments or win customer orders, which led to bribery and corruption risks getting on the rise. And in fact, the third one, which was most talked about, is the cybercrime risks. Again, this became very rampant, because employees started using personal laptops in work from home environments, which had less controls, as well as increasing adoption of cloud and digital transformation in companies. Both of these areas expose companies to cyber threats. And video conferencing services like Zoom, etc., actually led to username, passwords, and employee IDs of employees getting compromised. And what happened as a result was internal auditors were actually now required to not just focus on the business as usual risk, but actually hone their risks in cyber risks as well, because no longer could we say that we're relying on IT audits or technology auditors to review these processes. And the entire changing paradigm of digital transformation and remote working actually required us as internal auditors to upskill ourselves to newer ways of working, which was performing virtual audits. And this actually, the remote access to getting all the company's data and the supporting documents allowed us as internal auditors to enhance and put in data algorithms to test every single transaction. And the other big thing that this brought about was that now, instead of relying on the past 6 months of data or 1 year of data, we actually had the capability to provide organizations with near real-time testing and continuous monitoring techniques. And this also allowed us as internal auditors to actually not just identify sample exceptions or one-off exceptions, but provide management with trends and patterns of which employee was at a higher risk or which vendor was at a higher risk of non-compliance, by actually collating data, ingesting big data sets, and providing trends and patterns which actually would help the management to identify and uncover frauds, which was previously not possible in manual sample-based reviews. And just to summarize, the auditor of the future will definitely have different skill sets than what his or her peers today had, which will drive our ability to enhance the quality of audits that we're doing, and even transform the way that we're using data to provide meaningful results for organizations. Back to you, Sid.
Thank you so much, Anu. This was really insightful. I think, yes, can't agree more on this. Over the last 2 years, fraud risk, cyber controls, this has been the buzz. And I think you've articulated it very well. That's the skill, the emerging skill. And I think that's the future we have to go ahead with. Very quickly, I'll position a question to each one of you, starting with you, Mukesh. You already spoke a lot in terms of how do we actually scope the internal audit, keeping aligned the stakeholder expectations, internal or external. Now let's wear the hat of a CEO or a CFO. I do resonate my thoughts that to be an effective internal auditor, one should wear different hats, also the hat of a CEO, CFO, and audit committee chair, so that one can make out. What are your views on whether internal auditors can attain business roles? Yeah, so internal audit, you start as a career and then ultimately you attain a business role, say a CFO, CEO. And how does internal audit experience or the skill help in this journey? Mukesh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, I was. Sorry. So it's a good question. Frankly, all of our participants, most of them, if not all, are about to start their career. And therefore, I would highly recommend, even if they don't want to pursue internal audit for a longer term as a career, first couple of years in internal audit will give you a far better visibility and the width across the organization to understand different function, understand different priorities, and then decide which career you want to get to. You want to be in HR, you want to be in supply chain, or maybe in finance or digital or whatever else. It will definitely be possible, and the more exposure you would have across the organization landscape, you would have an opportunity to take any role. There are many organizations across the globe who would allow people to very freely move across functions. And when that opportunity comes in, internal audit function is always looked up to because of their ability to first have a wider knowledge across the organization, and their thinking pattern and curiosity, and their ability to analyze things with a different lens. So I would say it is very much possible for internal auditor to take any position he wants to. It's all about how do we apply ourselves in the situation.
Thank you so much, Mukesh. I think rightly said, because internal auditors also cut across the organization. They can have a very befitting role to play as a in the C-level, C-suite level, if I can say. I'll go very quickly because I know we are a bit hard pressed on time. So I'll go to Ruchi, to you. We've been talking about value add from a sectoral nuances perspective. Auditors should be aware of it. So what complex decision making do you think internal auditors require to develop, and your view on super specialist subject matter expert versus a journalist internal auditor?
Sure. So basically, the simple decision making is when you have to decide yes or no. But in the complex decision making, you have multiple, solutions, and you have to weigh. Everything looks fine, but you have to weigh, the pros and the cons of every solution, and then finally decide, what is going to be the right solution. Everything looks right in that particular in the complex decision making situation. So here, it really happens as far as the internal auditors are concerned, starting from the scope of the audit, the areas to be, the risk to be risk identification, scope of the audit period to be selected, or if you are at a senior level, the people whom you are supposed to put in for the particular audit, and in what all the countries you are going to consider, what all areas you are going to consider. So every place you have to have the complex decision making, because there's no yes or no, there are multiple areas where you have to decide. So for doing that, people should try to understand the environment. Then we should have some kind of 4 or 5 alternatives available, and then we have to see, do the brainstorming to do the plus and minus of each solution, and look at the impact which is visible impact. You have to see what would the impact after, if this has been done. Then there can be, it's like a strategically, like in the game of chess, you need to know your moves 2-3 moves ahead also. So similarly in the complex decision making, when you are weighing your all the solutions, you are doing the pros and cons, you have to finalize that, because this is very, very important for right kind of conclusion of audit, and when you are giving the right kind of recommendations. Any wrong recommendation spoils the image of the auditor.
Okay.
So that is very, very important for that particular thing. And as far as the SME specialists are concerned, super specialists, as well as the generic profile is concerned, so we consider generic profile the people who do finance, operational audit, process audit. That's generally considered as a normal audit generic profile. However, nowadays, lot many profiles have come in the last 1.5 decade. Is IT auditors came in initially, then now after that forensic auditors. So these all are the super speciality. Now the civil structure, architecture kind of audit is also happening. Every year, you have every area you have got multiple set of auditors. So the fields are multiple. You have got information security officers, compliance auditors. So the speciality areas, SMEs are, the demand is very high, though the supply may not be. because not everybody would like to go into audit. For who specialize in IT, they may like to go for the software development rather than coming for the information security or the IT audit. However, this is happening nowadays. The demand is high and the supply is low, but when people are actually choosing those areas, plus people who are generic in the profile are also specializing in those areas. Like if you start as a generic and then you can always get into the forensic auditor and all. However, if you want to make your career, long-term career, if you have to see, if you want to become a CAE, Chief Audit Executive, then it is very important that you need to broaden your horizon. If you want to be a compliance officer, only compliance audit, then you can become a Chief Compliance Officer. If you want to be information security only, then you can become a CISO of an organization. However, if you want to become a CAE, then it is better that you broaden your area and you should have the generic plus SME kind of profiling. That really helps. Only SME will go generally till mid level or the other senior level of the other side, not in the audit only.
Ruchi, this is helpful. I'm sure the audience is also gaining a lot of insight from this. Personally, to just add to what you're saying, yes, in some of the businesses, particularly if I talk about my experience also, in a ENR company, in an oil and gas specifically, I think one needs to understand the business nuances even to be in the support function. So I fully resonate your thoughts over there, and we'll be again coming back to you, Anu. How do you see internal audit of future requiring to embrace digital and analytics, and to what extent in these times?
Sure. So I'll first of all, again, just, in the interest of speed, just go off screen. Yeah. So I'll just quickly, interestingly tell you about how in the last 2 years, the way in which we are conducting audits in the organization has drastically changed with embracement of digital technologies. Now, again, first and foremost, like I said, we are not focusing on samples, but with the adoption of digital transformation in organizations, as internal auditors, we've got a golden opportunity to move away from manual audits and use techniques and technologies like AI and machine learning focused data analytics. So now we have an AI technology which helps companies audit both the expenses or the vendor details in real time and the supporting documents within minutes of submission. There is a technology known as machine vision, or more commonly referred to as optical character reading, which is able to extract data from all the invoices of an organization and pick up relevant fields like the name of the vendor, employee, the amount, the description, and put it in a readable format. What this allows is this data can now be compared against multiple sources available on the internet to identify compliance issues like a third party which is blacklisted as per your government regulation, or a third party which has links to government officials or is part of a government official, which ideally should not be a third party that a company should use. So all these things which previously could only be done on samples or could not even be done are now actually becoming possible with the click of a button by using fuzzy logic techniques, where the name of the third party can actually be linked across the internet to identify any potential link. The other big thing that has come about, with these OCR techniques is now each and every invoice can be read, and the line items, in fact, of the invoice can be read to identify unallowable expenses like a liquor expense, an alcohol expense, or a personal expense, and picked up and reviewed against the company policy to see whether this actually was an unallowable expense or not. So now, earlier, again, this was not being possible, because again, it was a sample-based review. But now as auditors, we have the ability to test the entire transaction to identify unallowable expenses as well. And lastly, but very important, what is happening because of this is that once your system is able to ingest this data, it can actually flag risky transactions on its own basis on parameters that it is learning. And this is referred to as the machine learning technology. What this allows is that this is actually allowing companies to provide insights, to get insights on a real-time basis and flagging outliers, which otherwise would have never been able to get caught. And that's actually the power that digital and AI is bringing in organizations from an audit standpoint. We're actually able to pick up patterns and trends in data, which as human auditors, we were never able to identify. And what are the advantages that it brings for clients? A, we move away from sample-based testing to 100% transaction testing. B, companies are pretty happy because now they're getting real-time insights as we're moving away from past audit of 6 months, 1 year to continuous auditing. Third and most important is there is a higher risk coverage that companies are getting today versus a checklist-based approach of just validating amount and approval. Because now companies are actually getting to get more and more of fraud risk covered, regulatory risk covered, trends and patterns identified of employees who are trying to beat the process versus just a sample-based review. Companies are getting access to benchmarking across locations, across organizations, which is helping them understand what are the best practices globally and locally so that they could replicate this across all the locations of their organization. And lastly, by actually having access to a visual depiction of the data, visually having dashboards which show you what the exceptions are, who are your high-risk employees, who are the high-risk third parties, what are your top cash spends, employees are able, or rather executives of organizations are able to take meaningful actions on a real-time basis and are able to understand where are the high risk for your third parties and for your organization. So those are a few changes, and that's why companies we're seeing are pretty happy with auditors, embracing digital technologies, bringing in AI, robotics, machine learning in their processes. In fact, it's becoming a silver lining for organizations because they're becoming more resilient and better positioned to address the new business reality of today. So that's the change we've been, seeing, and that's the infusion of digital technologies and how this has affected organizations today.
Very well explained, Anu. I think the expectation from internal auditors is also to give assurance to a larger population or entire population, if I can say, of transactions that is happening. To increase technology is the only answer and solution. So thanks for enlightening all of us on that. And Poonam, as you know, we can't conclude before we hear the emotional intelligence part from you. Last you gave some insight around if somebody is looking left, somebody is looking right, how do you infer what the person is actually doing? And that actually, I'm sure the listeners also, the audience over here would be encouraged to do something around NLP. But how do you see emotional intelligence as a key soft skill? And more importantly, how can one develop it?
Yeah, sure. So I feel emotional intelligence is a topic which has been talked about a lot recently. And emotional intelligence is a person's ability to identify his emotions, use those emotions, understand emotions, and regulate emotions. And when a person is able to understand his own emotions, he can easily understand the emotions of the other person as well. And this is how they are able to predict the behavior of the other person. And this is a technique that can definitely help auditors in moving ahead and to conduct a quality audit. So in meetings, this technique can be used. If a person is emotionally intelligent, he will be able to understand the emotion of the other person, and they can definitely have control over their own negative reactions and having better negotiations with the other person by developing better rapport and by having better understanding of the other person's behavior and attitude. And definitely in reporting as well, it will be useful as a person can know if I add some certain data or opinion in a report, what is the anticipated reaction I can have from the stakeholders. So knowing in advance what could be the reaction of the stakeholders can definitely help in reporting as well. And while dealing with the team, definitely a person will be good in giving and receiving feedback, which can definitely help to develop the team building and to have better and stronger teams. Now, in terms of how a person can develop their emotional intelligence, I would say a person have to start working on being aware of themselves. They should start recognizing their emotions. They should start labeling their emotions. When I'm angry, when I'm happy, when I'm sad. So the moment we are able to do this, the first thing will be we become aware of the emotions, and second thing will be we will do something to regulate such emotions which are unwanted at a particular point of time. So we will know what are our emotional triggers, and so that we can have a control over those triggers, which should not spoil the entire picture during any discussion. We have to work on being good listeners and let others speak and express themselves. We should judge less, criticize less, and let other people open up. We should develop that empathy. We should support them, empathize them. And one very important key skill or key tip that I would like to give at this point of time, we call it a presupposition of NLP as well. generally we have that habit of judging people. And when we judge people, we mostly focus on the behavior of the people. So we have to shift our attention from their behavior to their intention. The problem with all of us is that we judge ourselves, we judge others by their behaviors, and we judge ourselves by our intentions, right? So if we start judging others also by their intentions, what could be their intention behind such behavior? That can definitely help us to build better relationships. So that was all from my side, sir. Any questions, I will be happy to answer.
No, thanks, Poonam. I was always wondering while you were saying all this that how can one be more predictive? Yeah, let me put it this way, because you're just trying to analyze a situation, a given circumstance, and trying to be more predictive. When you said that you send a report and you actually know what the management response would be, Mukesh, Ruchi, Anu, you will agree. We are actually trying to expedite the whole process, the whole audit life cycle. So I think emotional intelligence is very critical. that's what I can say. And once again, thank you, Anu, Poonam, Ruchi, Mukesh, for enlightening the audience with your point of views. And I'm confident our participants have gained good insights from this discussion. It's been a pleasure interacting with you all. Yukti, can I request you to take the session forward?
Yeah, thank you very much, each one of you. So there are certain questions which we have got. So there are certain questions which we have with respect to value creation. So Ruchi, this question is marked to you. What is meant by value creation, if you can elaborate?
So value, gone are the days, when the internal auditor was supposed to find the defects in the process and then say that, these are the issues which we have observed. Nowadays, process owners, management, everybody is looking forward to the auditor to be a value creator. So if you have identified any kind of issue, please advise some kind of process improvement or give some value add so that the process is strengthened. So the focus is not on the kind of gaps you have identified, even if it has some kind of result in some cost also. Now, you give the recommendation, the right kind of recommendation are expected from the auditors that give us some value add so that we can improve our process, or even if you don't find any kind of issue in the process which you have actually audited, but then also they are looking forward to some kind of improvements in the process because we have already seen the process, and you need to advise management as well as the process owner that how the process can be improvised. So this is the mindset of the management as well as the process owner, which they are looking forward to from the auditor. They are not looking for the defect anymore.
Absolutely. Second question, Anu, I'll put to you. So because you spoke on emerging technology, so there's one question that since now new technologies are becoming so relevant, blockchain, DeFi, built fintechs, what are your expert views on agile auditing, data analytics practice, and review of digital transformation system processes? And there's a combined question, is it necessary for an internal auditor to learn RPA to create bots and all? That's asked by the different person, but I would put it together.
Sure. Thanks, Yukti. So taking on the first question, well, absolutely, I'll answer it in two ways. When we started as internal auditors, definitely none of these skills were something that we possessed, data analytics or RPA skills, any automation, digital. But however, over a period of time, this has become the new normal, as we are calling it, and those are skills of the future, in fact, not of the future, of the present as well. So to put a long story short, absolutely today, it is absolutely essential for auditors to be completely comfortable and hone in on our data analytics skills, because gone are the days of performing a sample manual based review of 30 transactions. The world is moving to, like I said, continuous auditing, real-time audits, and 100% transaction review. And all this definitely requires us as internal auditors to be completely comfortable with data analytical techniques. In fact, it's not just data analytics. What I spoke about is it's not just running, static algorithms. The world is moving to corroborative analytics, where we're actually picking up the data using machine vision and actually, putting the data on internet to identify transactions, blacklisted exceptions, etc., unallowable expenses. So there is a lot of AI technologies as well, which as auditors we need to completely get our hands dirty with and get completely comfortable, because as Ruchi pointed out, the world needs more specialists, and the generic way of doing audit is a thing of the past. Bringing in fraud risk, bringing in regulatory risk, third-party risks, special key risk which organizations, and even now ESG risks. The expectation from internal audit is not just to do business as usual, but to provide value by actually looking at these risks. And this definitely requires us to be comfortable with the new ways of working. So ACL technologies, digital, AI, machine learning, those are something that we as auditors need to invest and become comfortable with. And I think the specific question that is on RPA, it is something which you will hone on over a period of time, but absolutely, as like all digital technologies, as auditors, we need to get comfortable with RPA technology as well, because it is going to be a demand of the future. Yeah, thanks, Yukti.
Thank you, Anu, for the answer. Another question which we have, again, I'll put this to you, Ruchi. My question is that I am from science background and done masters in criminology, currently working security loss prevention profile. Am I eligible to be internal audit? I think Sumant spoke about it, but yes, if you could elaborate, because obviously you are seeing this daily.
Yeah, so like I said earlier also, that you can always be the internal auditor, and with a specialized skill you can always perform in that particular skill. However, when you are part of the internal audit team, try to expand your horizon. If you so it's not that if we have done something, we should restrict ourselves to that particular profile only. Internal audit provides a lot of opportunities, and if the horizon is very, very big, very, very broad. So it gives the opportunity to all the auditors to actually get into the other areas very quickly and easily. So I think it is very, very important that if you have done this in a specialized area, you join any internal audit function with that kind of skill, but then keep on broadening your areas and get into the other profiles also. That would be helpful.
Yes, thank you, Ruchi.
I will add half. Yukti, I will add half a line here, since I am a CFE myself and also speaker on the Criminology Institute in Delhi. See, today the strength of an audit function is evaluated based on what is the diversity they have in terms of the skill set. Do they have CAs only, or do we have a mix of an MBA to data scientist to people who understand criminology versus civil engineer or whatever else? So the more diversity we have across the internal audit function or an internal audit service provider, a better comfort a client would get that they will have all the lens focusing towards his business and add value. Back to you, Yukti.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Mukesh. So next question also, how about enterprise value audit, organization culture audit, apart from regular audit, and futuristic audit? Because you spoke of the scopes and areas, I think these are emerging areas, and you would be seeing this. So any views over here?
Absolutely. So ethics and culture is the foundational stuff. If we have all the good stuff in the organization, but ethics and culture is not protected or not being ran the way it should, it will have a significant governance risk, which will eliminate all the good stuff we are doing at a process level. So therefore, it's very, very important and should be audited by default. I mean, that's my view, personal view. Now, a different company deal with it differently. On the newer things, enterprise value system, enterprise risk management, ESG in times to come, etc., are the one which are also at an enterprise level. And in fact, if you look at a global framework of COSO, it also talks about enterprise risk management, or maybe the control environment to be really looked at very deeply for organizations to have comfort on their overall governance. Yukti, back
Thank
to
you,
you.
Mukesh. So we have, in fact, lot of many other questions, but last question I'll just put to you, Poonam. This is for you. Any tips on how to assess intention? It's a tough one.
So yeah. So to start from, you want to understand the intentions of the other person. So to know that, first we have to start from ourselves. So once we have the understanding of ourselves, it will be easy for us to have understanding of others. So it all starts from within. So a very important technique or tip is mindfulness. Start practicing mindfulness so that we can be mindful of how we react to a particular situation and what are our reactions, the body reactions, what we can see on our body. If, a very simple answer would be if I ask how do people react when they are angry? You can easily tell me whether a person is angry or not, right? So I have to start observing that when a person is angry, how they react. When a person is hiding something, how they react. So if I know that these are my reactions when I'm hiding something, I can easily predict those reactions to other people as well. So it all starts from knowing self. And to know self, we have to start being more mindful.
So looks
Exactly.
can never be deceptive. That means, Poonam. I'm just adding to it.
Yeah.
The saying looks can be deceptive.
So we
So
have
I
to
think,
start reading between the lines.
yeah, we have many more questions, but since we have to conclude, so I would like to thank now to every one of you joined and asked these wonderful questions. Thanks for being wonderful audience. And I would like to thank Sumant Chadha ji, ex-president IIA India, for his theme address and he explaining how his journey was and how he involved in the future of internal audit. Bharat Garg, who is the chairman of Publication Media Committee, IIA India, IIA Delhi Chapter Board of Governor and senior leader. So he focused on empathy, good communications, flexibility in approach and good listening. Avinash Gupta ji, chairman NIRC, ICI India, for being here in this discussion, and he focused on how to create value and have out-of-box thinking, good communication, skills of IT, and benchmarking from industry. And most importantly, the wonderful panel and the moderator, and specifically Sidheshwar Bhalla for moderating this panel, for asking such a interesting questions and bringing his point of view. Thank you very, very much, Sid. Thank you, Anupriya, Mukesh, Ruchi, Poonam, for explaining your point of views on scoping, on key skills, on competency framework, on emerging skills, on communication skills, on emotional quotients, and the emerging internal audit skill. And thank you very much, Sana, chairman of IIA Delhi Women Forum, for coordinating, organizing, and providing all of us opportunity to be part of this session and sharing the views. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone. Requesting participants to give their feedback. everyone for your valuable.
Thanks to all of you. We sign off now.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. We conclude now. Thanks a lot. We can
Thank you so much.
sign off.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.